A very good morning, all. So, guys, in the last few days or in last few weeks, you have or we have completed unit number 1 and 2, that is the part of your syllabus, right? So, in today's lecture, actually, we are going to revise unit number 1 and 2, and I'm going to solve the queries that you have regarding unit number 1 and 2. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do in today's lecture. We are going to revise unit number 1 and unit number 2. And I think you have your mixed semesters on Friday, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Yeah, you are having the AWT mid semester exam on Friday. So let's revise it quickly. And I hope you might have also gone through the PPT that is already uploaded and available on your e-content, right? So if you don't have downloaded or not gone through, just download it right now. I am going to go through the PPT one by one, and let me know if you have any queries with that particular topic in the PPT, right? So this is what I'm going to do in today's lecture. Today and even on the Thursday's lecture, I'm going to revise this particular subject, right? So that it will be easy for you during your mid semester on Friday. And I think the exam is on Friday, if I'm not wrong, 20th of August, AWT, right? So it will be easy for you to prepare and be ready for your mid sem. So what do you say? Shall we start from unit number 1 or unit number 2? Whichever you say. Shall we start from unit 1 or unit 2? Okay, let's start from unit 1 then. Okay, so let me just share my screen and let's see what we can have. I will not discuss any of the programs, but I'll only discuss the theory part and how you should write down the answer in the exam. Only that thing I'm going to discuss, right? So let me just share my screen. Let me know once my screen is visible. Right, thank you, Rati. Okay, guys, so we started with the object-oriented concepts of PHP. So before that, you should be always clear with the concepts of normal PHP or regular PHP. So guys, I'll just quickly ask you a few things regarding the normal or regular PHP. That what is PHP? Give me a quick idea. What is PHP? Good one. So PHP is a server-side programming language that helps you to create different types of applications. And generally, when we talk about PHP, we can either work with the database, we can provide the business logic or backend logic, and many more things using this particular programming language, right? So PHP is a server-side programming language and it supports open source technologies, right? Then we have different components of PHP, like we can have control statements, we can have exception handling, we can have looping statements, and many more things, even the arrays and everything. So, guys, in the exception handling, do you know what is the meaning of final keyword? Or I would say, in terms of PHP, what is the use of final keyword? In terms of PHP, what is the use of final keyword? Let me know. Does anyone know what is the use of final keyword? Anyone knows this? What is the use of final keyword? Yes. So whenever we write down a final keyword with any of the methods or classes, that method and class cannot be override. Remember this thing. We might have not covered it in the during the regular lectures, but it is a part of OOP-PHP. It is a part of OOP concepts of PHP. You write down a final either in method or in the class. We cannot override it. We cannot override it. Okay, guys, so moving on with the unit number 1, we have seen some of the concepts like classes, properties, methods, constructors, destructors, getters and setters, encapsulation, inheritance, data abstraction, and polymorphism. Right? So tell me, what is the difference between procedural oriented language and object oriented language? Okay. Yes, guys. What is the difference between OOP and procedural oriented language? What is the difference between procedural oriented language and object oriented language? Let me know in the chats. This could be the part of your examination question. Come on, guys, let me know the answer. What is the difference between procedural oriented language and object oriented language? This question will be asked for 3 marks or 4 marks. Minimum 5, maximum 7 to 8. Anyone can give me the answer? What is the difference between procedural oriented language and object oriented language? I can see very few students have joined. About 22 students are there, and no one is interested in giving the answer. That is the fact. Yes, guys, come on, tell me. Anyone interested to give the answer? Differentiate object-oriented programming and procedural-oriented programming. Okay, fine. No one is interested to answer. That's fine. Then rather than revising, let me go and start with Laravel, unit number 3. Okay, I've got 2 answers, but there is no difference between OOP and POP in those answers. You only described OOP. You have only described OOP here, not anything else. Right, so OOP is all about classes and objects, where class is a complete structure of a program, while object is a complete blueprint of a program, and you access each and every member of a class using the object of a class. Right, that is what the concept of OOP is. So what is the advantage of using OOP? Tell me. Explain the advantages of OOP, 3 marks. Explain advantages of OOP 3 marks. Anyone? Advantages of OOP 3 marks. Okay, here reusage of a code. One is the example. Second one, minimum 5 to 6 are expected. Flexibility, okay. Okay. Easy to detect the errors. All right. Then minimum 5 to 6 points are required. You have said 3 points. Reusability of code, flexibility, and it easy to find errors. 2 or 3 minimum more. The advantages of OOP. Yeah, you can say it's a secure code because of its property of being converted to byte code. Easy to modify and looks better. Okay, it's a pure structure. The structure of a program looks appropriate. All right. Better productivity. All right. So if you want to write down the answer, this would be your answer. Faster and easier to execute the code. It is having a clear structure of a complete program. It says you reuse your code rather than writing it again. Easier to maintain, modify, and debug the code. So these are the few of the advantages of your OOP. So when we talk about classes and objects, right? So this is how you declare a class in your PHP. Class name followed by the curly brackets, and then followed by in between the curly brackets you provide the components of that class. Either it is a method or the variables. Okay, so get your pen and paper ready. I'm going to give you one program to just write it down. So write down a program in PHP. I'll just write it down here. Write a program in PHP to check, or I would say to check a number is even or odd. Just write it down the complete program and paste it in the chats. Use the concepts of OOP. You need to create a method and method should be called by the object. Only using OOP. There should be a class and method. There should be a class and a method. Just write it down quickly and let me know the answer in the chats. Write a program in PHP to check whether a number is even or odd. And you need to use the concept of OOP, that is class and methods. Create a class, create a method, and then call that method that gives you the output of even and odd number. Do not write it directly. Even in the exam, you come across such type of program, you need to use the concept of OOP. That is, a class and a method should be there. So how many of you are writing the program? How many of you are writing the program? So whenever we are dealing with the methods, you should always provide a keyword called function and then followed by the method or function name. So this is the example that you can relate and then you can print it. Whatever we are going to discuss today and on Thursday could be the part of IMP questions of your mid semester. You may expect. So only I want to know whether you will use n percentage to double equal to 0 or triple equal to 0. That is what my concern is here. Whether you will use n percentage to double equal to 0 or you will use n percentage to triple equal to 0. Yes, guys. Can anyone tell me whether we will use double equal to or triple equal to 0? When we divide a number by 2, I've got two answers in the chats. What about others? Okay, third answer I have received. And all three of them are saying double equal to. What if I say that I want to use triple equal to? Will it work or not? If no, then give me the answer why. No, 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 no. What I'm saying here is, I'm saying that when you write down the condition, if number percentage 2 equal to 0, right? So instead of 2 equal sign, I want to use 3 equal sign. Can I do it or not? If n percentage 2 equal to 0, 3 equal to sign. Then what is 3 equal to signs? Allah. What does 3 equal sign symbolizes? These are the concepts of OOP only. Fine. How many of you have completed the program? Let me know in the chats. How many of you are done with the program? No one? That's fine. No issue. Okay. So whenever we are talking about the classes, right? We declare a class like this. Then whatever members of the class you are going to declare, and here the members are known as properties. The variables are known as properties. So whenever we are going to declare any property or variable, they should have at least one of the access modifier, and those are public, protected, and private, right? So the methods can be declared with the parameters, and the parameters can be directly passed whenever you are calling a particular method using the object, right? Then comes we have two types of components that gives us the details about the object, var dump and instance of. So var dump is going to provide what type of values have been stored in the object, while instance of is going to give us true or false whether the object of a particular class has been created or not. So these are the two more components of OOP PHP where we can deal and work with different objects, right? Then comes the magic methods constructors. We already discussed constructors, that constructors can be used directly to set up the reading of the data rather than creating a function for it. We directly initialize the value for all the properties of a class by using constructors. We do not create any method to read the value or to get the input of a particular values, right? And so this is how we declare the constructor, to underscore sign, and constructor is the construct is a keyword that we use followed by the arguments that you want to use. So this is what the example of constructor that we have seen. Just go through it once. If you have any queries, then let me know. Go through the program once. Right guys, so this is how we work with constructors in PHP. Mainly we use double underscore construct keyword. Rest everything remains the same. Only the constructors will be used to assign a values to the properties or variables of a program or class. We don't have to create any special methods for assigning the values to it. That's where is the benefit of constructor actually. Right. Then guys, we also came to know that we can inherit the constructor in the base class. So can anyone tell me how to inherit the constructor in the base class? From a base class to a child class? This is what we call the inheritance of a constructor of a base class to a child class. We write down parent double colon and then the constructor name of that particular parent. So this is what we have. We have function tc2. So when we write down public function tc2 and the function name is same as the class name, it means it is a type of constructor only. And when we use this type of constructor and we want to inherit it, what we do? We just go to that particular next class that extends or implements a base class. We declare a constructor, and if we want to use the parent class constructor in the child class, we write down parent double colon tc2, the constructor name of the base class. So this is how we work with inheritance of constructors mainly. Right? Clear? So far all good? Then moving on to the next type, the magic methods we have is destructor, but destructors are just used to clear all the memories allocated to the constructor, right? And we use double underscore destruct keyword to just clean up the code or the memory space. Moving on to the next, we have getters and setters. What are the uses of getters and setters? Let me know. Yes, guys, what is the use of getter and setter methods? Let me know in the chats. Okay, I got one answer called retrieve values. What about other answers? Yes. What is the main use of getter and setter? Setter is going to set the data, getter is going to return the data. Then they are the mutuator methods. So in the exam, you may come across a question called explain mutuator methods. Remember guys, in the exam, if you come across this word, mutuator methods, it means it is a getter and setter method. Remember this thing. Right? So this is what the example that we have seen for getter and setter. So mainly when we want to access a private property that is not accessible outside a class, right? So for such type of properties only, we use getter and setter methods. Okay? Remember this rule, getters and setters can only be used for accessing the private properties outside the class scope. That is what we have seen. Then comes encapsulation. Anyone knows what is encapsulation? Good one. Yes, guys. What is encapsulation? And what is the benefit of it? Two answers I'm expecting in the chats. What is encapsulation and what are its benefits? Let me know. Yes, anyone? What is encapsulation? What are its benefits? Again, a theory for your examination for 4 marks. Explain data encapsulation in detail. So read out this thing, that encapsulation can be used if the program of the object are private and updating them through public methods, right? Generally, it is very careful about OOP's concepts of inheritance, and we need to use this encapsulation while we are actually implementing inheritance, right? So what are the advantages? We hide and abstract the data, we can secure the data, we can reduce the complexity of a program, we can reuse and rely on particular code, we can test and debug the code quite easier, and it is quite flexible. So this is the only property of OOP that makes a program work more flexible. So encapsulation is the most important property of OOP. Right? So these three slides you need to remember to work with or to write down the answer for encapsulation. Right? Explain encapsulation in detail. Then comes a concept called data abstraction. So what do you mean by data abstraction? What do you mean by data abstraction? Let me know in the text. What do you mean by data abstraction? Yes, guys, what is data abstraction? Anyone can tell me? Can anyone tell me in these chats? What do you mean by data abstraction? Okay, all right, leave it. Let me know what do you mean by inheritance? What do you mean by inheritance? At least you can answer that thing to me. What do you mean by inheritance? Yes, one class obtaining the data from other class or more than one class, or we'll say the properties of one class is being used by some other class. That is inheritance. So what are the types of inheritance that can be implemented in OOP PHP? Yes, so what are the types of inheritance that could be implemented in PHP? We can implement simple inheritance and multi-level inheritance, but we cannot implement multiple inheritance. If I want to use or implement multiple inheritance, right, then I have to use interface or traits. We have two options for multiple inheritance, either interface or traits. Interface is something where we can have more than one parents and one single child can inherit both the parents. But the condition is in interface, whatever methods the parents have defined, only those methods the child class can implement. An interface do not have any implementation. Only child class provides the implementation of interface, that is parent classes. So this is what the interface is, and we use extends keywords in interface while we use implements keyword for simple and multi-level inheritance. Sorry, that's my mistake. For simple and multi-level inheritance, we use extends keywords, and for interface, we use implements keyword. More than one parents and one single child. No, no, it's not compulsory. You can have more than one child, but those childs can only inherit the parents, not the subclass also. So a child cannot be a parent for some other next child. Only the interfaces can be the parent of any of the classes or child classes. So I'll just show you one thing here. Let me do one thing. Have a look to this. Let's say I'm having interface 1, I'm having interface 2, and I'm having interface 3. So these three can be only the parent classes. Okay. And now let's say I'm creating class A, class B, and class C. Now what does this mean? This class A can inherit any of these interface. This class B can inherit any of these interface, but it cannot inherit this class A. Even though it is a class and it can inherit in a simple inheritance, we cannot inherit class B, class A to class B, because we are using the concept of interface. Yes. Yes, interface cannot be a child class. Interface can only be a parent class. So I hope I am clear with this concept of interface. Any class cannot act as a parent of any other class in interface. Only interfaces can act as a parent, and interfaces cannot act as a child. Clear? Only more than one parents for a child. There cannot be one parent for two different childs. Okay, you can have, let's say class A wants only interface 1, class B also wants only interface 1. That is possible. That is possible, yes. That is possible. Yes. Okay, moving on to the next. Then we have the concept of traits. Now, what is trait? Trait can have the implementations, and you can directly use the traits in any of the child class. So, this is what the example is. You can have trait name, you can have some implementation, and when you want to implement the same thing, right, in the child class, what you will do, or any of the classes, will use the use keyword and directly write down the trait name in the class where you want to implement. So it's not purely inheritance, it is somewhat different than inheritance, but somehow we can implement some code of one class in some other class. So this is what the example is. Trait message 1, it is having one function, it is printing something. Trait message 2, again it is having one function, it is printing something. And now I want to use both of them in some different classes. This is how we use. Class 1, use trait 1. Class 2, use trait 1 and trait 2. Yes, directly we are calling the methods of some other classes declared as a trait in some other classes. That's it. So this is what we call it as, or we use traits. This is how we use traits. Then comes data abstraction. We represent the data in some other form, but the implementation is hidden. That means we hide the implementation of two different methods, two different classes, two different files from each other, but we implement it in our own way. That is what we call it as data abstraction, right? And data abstraction is generally used with an abstract class. So we use abstract keyword. So guys, let me know what is abstract class very quickly. Okay, what is abstract class, guys? Let me know. Abstract class cannot have their objects, they cannot be instantiated, they cannot be invoked. And whenever we declare any class with abstract keyword, that is abstract class, then there should be at least one abstract method in that class. Otherwise, that class cannot act as a abstract class. This is what the rule that you need to remember. Any class declared with an abstract keyword can be considered as an abstract class, but it should have minimum one abstract methods, a method with abstract keyword. This is what the example of it. Abstract methods do not have any implementation. They can only be declared with a semicolon at the end. So this is what the example is. Abstract class, class 1, abstract protected function, prefix name is the function name, and it is abstract, so it does not have any implementation, but the implementation will be in the child class where you actually inherit the abstract class. So here you can see the abstract class has been inherited, and the same function that was declared in the abstract class using abstract keyword has been implemented here. Right, so this is the use of abstract class. You should declare one abstract method in the abstract class with no implementation, and abstract class is being inherited by a child class, and the method of that abstract class that was made abstract can be implemented in the child class. Right? Then we have auto load register. So what is the use of auto load register, guys? Let me know very quickly in the chats. What is the use of auto load? Be quick to answer. Anyone knows this? What is the use of auto load register? Simply, guys, when you have specific types of files in your application that you want to execute them automatically, we use SPL auto load register function. Nothing else. We execute some files in an application automatically without calling them from manually on the browser URL. Right? That is the main use of SPL autoload register component. This is how we use. We have class 1.php, we have class 2.php, and then we use autoload and we say that I want to execute all the files that has the prefix as class and execute all the files that start with class keyword, or whatever file name has a class in the prefix part, right? And we then just pass out the arguments. Then we have a concept of object cloning. So we actually clone the object. We create the duplicate copy of the same object that we have created. So that is what we call it as cloning of object. So you can see the cloning can only be implemented on constructors. So we declare one constructor, and the same constructor's duplicate copy I am creating here with the keyword called clone. So what it says, when I assign a value m to this x and n to this y, and I'm overwriting that assignment, that I'm assigning a value zebra to this x. So I have just duplicated the constructor and I'm changing the value assigned to x. That is what we call it as cloning concept. Then we have some magic methods that you can read out on your own. I am not going to discuss. At last, we have the polymorphism. The compile time polymorphism is known as method overloading. Runtime polymorphism is method overriding. Method overloading cannot be implemented. Method overriding can be implemented here in this. You can see method overloading cannot be implemented. You can only implement method overriding, where one base class and one parent class. A base class has its methods and a child class has inherited the base class and it is going to override the methods implemented in the base class. That is what we call it as method overriding. So this is all about unit number 1, the object-oriented concepts of PHP. So just go through this complete PPT once, guys, before the next lecture, and let me know if you have any queries in the next lecture for this particular PPT. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss unit number 2 on Thursday from 11:55 to 12:55. Right? We have a lecture. So with these remarks, I am ending up this lecture here. Thank you very much, guys, and all the very best for your examination starting from tomorrow. Thank you very much, guys. Have